Sponsored by Alpha Supply.
Hey guys, so you want to start your own t-shirt business? Well, get excited because in this video, I'm going to tell you the 4 basic ways to print your t-shirt and everything that you're going to need to be able to do it. We'll go through vinyl, which is also known as HTV, which is heat to transfer vinyl, dye sublimation, direct to garment, also known as DTG, and screen printing. Now, I know at the end of this video, you're probably going to be asking me, well, what about this type? What about that way? We have many videos coming with details on each printing, how to do it, and any questions that you have to ask, please leave them below. The first way to print shirts we'll cover is vinyl. This is done by taking your desired design and running it through your vinyl cutter program. The vinyl cutter will then cut the vinyl. You will need to weed the design and place the weeded vinyl on the shirt and use a heat press to attach it to the shirt. What you initially will need for this is a vinyl cutter, and Alpha Supply has many vinyl cutter options that can fit into any budget. Your cutter should come with software designed specifically for designing and sending the signal from your computer to the cutter. The most used vinyl cutting model is a Silhouette Cameo 3. You will also need vinyl for the cutter to cut. These come in limitless colors and designs. Some are shown in the picture below. The vinyl should never fade, crack, or peel, unlike any forms of printing. So if you're having this issue, we'll go over it later in other videos. The last thing that you will need is a good heat press, and I cannot stress enough the importance of having a good heat press. The cheap ones will break, and within a small amount of time, they're ultimately going to make your product suffer for you and your customer. The cheap presses will either be wrong temperature or will cease working on parts of the press. This will cause issue after issue, and you're spending more money on the long run replacing either your heat presses or having people fix them. Plus, the better presses hold up their value and they last for decades. Presses come in either the clamshell or a swing away. It's just depending on your preference. Oh yeah, I almost forgot. Let's talk about shirts. For vinyl, you can use it almost any material you desire. We could use it on 100% cotton, 50% cotton, 50% polyester blends, and 100% polyester. And with vinyl, you can use any color shirt you desire, unlike the other printing that we're going to talk about later on in this video. So what's up next? Dye sublimation. Let's talk about dye sublimation for a minute. This is a process in which you will print a photo with a dye sublimation printer on a TruePix dye sublimation paper, but you have to make sure that you mirror your image. You will then take the image and place it face down on your shirt or whatever item that you plan on printing. You put a paper between the shirt to prevent it from bleeding. You will then press your shirt. Lift the handle and voila, finished shirt ready to sell. So the first thing that we're going to need for dye sublimation, that's right, you got it, that really nice heat press that you picked out, because what's important, what's a good investment? Your heat press will be your best investment. The next thing that we're going to need is a dye sublimation printer. Now, Alpha Supply sells a fantastic Epson printer with a continuous ink system. Now, this continuous ink system will save you in the long run on ink cost, but you have to use sublimation ink. This ink is made to use on polyester and other poly objects. You can also do mugs, mouse pads, koozies, license plates, etc., etc. This never ends with the dye sublimation ink. This ink is to be used on light color products. The best thing is where there's no ink in the picture, there will be no print, so having a transparent background works with the sublimation printing. You will also need that True Pix dye sublimation paper that we talked about earlier. This type of paper is very well made, but at a very low price for you. You will print your picture onto this paper and place it face down on the shirt, but don't forget to add the paper between your print and the bottom of your shirt. And as stated earlier, dye sublimation works best with polyester materials. This means that you can print on a 100% polyester dry fit shirt or a 50% cotton, 50% polyester blend for a more vintage look. The print becomes one with the shirt, thus never fading. This will not work with 100% cotton shirts, for the print will wash out after 1 or 2 washes. Direct garment printing is a way to print in which a printer will physically print on the shirt. Some only work on white shirts and some will work with dark colored shirts if the printer has the capability of printing a white background first. The first thing that you will need is a conveyor dryer to cure the ink on the shirt after the printer is done printing. This is important for you to want your ink to dry appropriately without bubbles. You will need a direct-to-garment printer. The files can be sent from your computer to the printer and directly onto the shirt. As stated earlier, if you want to print on dark shirts, then you will need a printer that can print white. Before any printing, you want to make sure that you put the shirt through the shirt pre-treat machine. This will allow the print to look appropriate, vibrant, and clear on the shirt. DTG printing is used to print on 100% cotton shirts. And lastly, screen printing. This is the oldest form of shirt printing. It is a very, very messy process and takes up a lot of room, and you have to have the correct setup. The first thing that you will need is a printer to print black on your transparent films. Once it's printed, you will attach it to the screen with emulsion on it and put it onto the light box. The light box is what will allow you to have a screen to print through. Once you're finished with the light box, you will take the screen, remove the transparent film, and pressure spray the emulsion out of it. This will leave you with a screen that you will put your ink through. You will need a dryer conveyor to cure the paint correctly onto the shirt without bubbling the paint on the shirt. And lastly, you will need a printing press, screens, mesh, emulsion, a screen stretcher, paint, and a squeegee. This long process is why no screen printers will do less than 12 shirts. It's very time consuming and expensive to do. As for your shirts, your best bet is sticking with cotton products. For the paint for polyester shirts are much more heavier and tend to look poorly when done. This is why we chose to do vinyl and dye sublimation, for it makes it easy to do a one-off shirt or thousands of shirts for a customer. Vinyl and dye sublimation are a much cleaner and much less time-consuming way to print shirts. It also takes up much less room than screen printing, so it's easy to even run the business out of a single room in your house. Thank you very much for watching. We will have more videos shortly with more specific details and instructions for each type of printing. Please subscribe and leave your questions below.